Should the Seattle Seahawks re-sign Jarran Reed for one last ride? What's up, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Wednesday, so got a couple things that I want to say real quick before we get into the topic of today's video, which is going to be an interesting one. Since it is Wednesday, we've got a show tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific over on the Bleacher Report. So I'm gonna say it again because I understand that it takes a little bit of effort to actually be able to access those shows. You need to download the Bleacher Report app to your mobile device. You need to make an account, and then you need to wait for the link to get posted in the community tab. Should be in there later today. And then you just need to wait for the show. But you have to do those things. You cannot watch it through the browser, and you can't watch it on a desktop device. So understand that you have to go through those steps. But I really want to encourage people to get over there, even though I know it's there's a few steps you have to follow, because I'm going to be doing a show there every week, and I'm going to be doing my pregame or postgame shows immediately following Seahawks games during the season over there. So people need to be ready over there if they want to get my initial reactions to games. It's a new thing we're going to be doing this season, and if you're not over there, then there's no way to watch whatever it is that I do over there. So tonight, 6 p.m., Bleacher Report. Get the app, get an account, and get ready for it. All right, so that's number one. Number two, Stream with the Hawks Nest is tomorrow at noon, usual time. We're going to dig into the Clint Kubiak stuff. We're going to go deeper into what we can expect from the offense. And we'll be talking about whatever else people want us to talk about as it regards Seattle Seahawks football or football in football in general. So, that's about it. Please like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. And we got to talk about Jarran Reed. Jarran Reed. Longtime NFL player. This next season will be his 10th in the NFL. Second round pick of the Seahawks many, many years ago. 2016. He's carved out a really nice career. He's had 2 successful stints with the Seattle Seahawks. Should we make it another stint? Should we bring him back to allow him to probably wind down his career as a member of the Seahawks? That one's a little bit tricky to answer, and there's more to it than just Jarran Reed's individual ability, but let's go ahead and start there. Jarran Reed was a player that we gave a 2-year contract a couple of years ago, and I didn't have very high expectations for him. I wasn't all that optimistic about what he would be able to do in Seattle, and I was a little bit down on the signing personally. I just kind of viewed it as going back to the well that had probably already gone dry, going back to get back one of your guys that you had let go years prior, and I didn't have a lot of hope for what Reed was going to be able to do here. Well, I can report very happily that the last 2 years have been very good for Jarran Reed. I've gotten way more out of Jarran Reed than I ever anticipated, and it was a successful signing. 2 years, $9 million, and over that 2-year span, he's given you 11.5 sacks, even though he's lined up a decent amount on the inside, even over A-gap. He's been, by and large, for the first season he was here, he was actually lining up as a nose tackle a lot, and he was still giving you sacks. He was still making plays in the backfield, and I felt like he was one of our best players on defense last year as well. You go over to Pro Football Focus here. You go back to 2023. This was the first year of that deal he signed, and we're not really going to go back further than this. This is an older player, understand? So looking too far back to try to determine future performance is a mistake. But you can see he was well above average, 60th out of 250 qualifying defensive linemen, 63.5. And then last year, 2024, they actually thought even a little higher of him, over a 70 grade, 26th in the league out of 219 qualifying defensive linemen. They've mostly given him high marks for his pass rush more so than his run defense, but regardless, objectively speaking, he's been good. He's been a good, effective player. Now, here is where things get a little bit interesting beyond just his raw numbers and raw performance. In 2023, despite what Pro Football Focus lists here, we used him in A-gap a good amount, which is actually, even though he's a little undersized, his natural position. So we were playing him there, and he did quite well there, and it worked out. So on that level, hey, great stuff. We found something that seemed like it worked a little bit, and I thought that the experiment looked like it was headed towards great success, and it still was. Don't get me wrong. We gave this guy $4.5 million a year over 2 years. We didn't pay him big bucks, so we were getting our money's worth last year as well. The issue is in 2024, he didn't line up in A-gap nearly as much. In fact, he barely did. He became a little bit more of a 3-tech in this defense, and that's fine, but it's not really what we need right now. You look at the Seahawks as they're constituted right now, 3-tech is probably one of the positions that they're feeling the best at. They have Leonard Williams, who was one of the best defensive players in the league in 2024. Should still have another great season next year. No reason to believe he won't. And then they have Byron Murphy, who they like so much they put him out there at nose tackle because they wanted him out there. But realistically, Byron Murphy is also probably meant to play a decent amount of 3-tech in the NFL. So you already have 3 guys that you are a big fan of at that position. So if Jarran Reed was somebody you were looking at as a nose tackle, like a pure nose tackle, it'd be great. But it doesn't seem like McDonald sees Reed in that way. It doesn't seem like McDonald looks at Reed and goes, that's a nose tackle. And I don't know why he would see it that way and then do what he did last year, where Reed ended up at 3-tech a lot and even lined up over tackle a lot in like a 4-eye or a 4-eye type role. Because if you did, then why were you playing Murphy out of position? So it's hard to find space for him in the current constitution of the team, because you're expecting Byron Murphy to make a big step forward in 2025. If you don't, then you shouldn't have drafted him. So that alone is going to make this hard. But let's try to get to the bottom of some money here. Let's sort Spotrac average annual value, defensive tackles, interior defensive linemen, and we're going to do our best to reduce the equation as much as possible, because Jarran Reed just turned 32, okay? He just turned 32. And if you look at the list on Spotrac, these contracts almost exclusively not being signed by players that are 32 years old. Most of them are under 30. A lot of them are well under 30. A couple of them are pushing up near 30. But 32, you're not seeing that. So let's just scroll until we start finding some guys that are on the other side of 30. And we're not going to stop till we get there. And you can see how far we have to scroll to find anybody. We get all the way down to Denico Autry, and Denico Autry mostly plays as an edge rusher, so I'm not going to count that. We're skipping that too. I think Spotrac has him listed incorrectly. The first guy we get to is Daquan Jones. Daquan Jones, 32 years old. He signed a 2-year extension last year with Buffalo. $16 million, so $8 million a year. So that would be a decent sized pay bump for Jarran Reed. But is that something that would make sense given his production? So Daquan Jones, if you take a look at what he did to earn that extension, he spent 2 years in Buffalo. The first year he played almost every game, played fairly well, but he honestly wasn't nearly as productive as Jarran Reed, objectively speaking, right? He had 2 sacks. The tackle numbers are not anything that jumps out and grabs you as, oh, this is an amazing player. 2023, he was playing pretty darn elite. He was looking like he was one of the best players in the league at his position for a while, but he only played 7 games. Now, if he had played the full season, he probably ends up having that all-pro caliber year, but it's mitigated by the fact that he didn't even play half the season. So you look at Daquan Jones on Pro Football Focus in 2022, they thought he played really well. They graded him out really well in both categories. They liked him a lot, 28th, but hey, That's not radically different than what Jarran Reed gave us last year. And then the next year, the contract year, they thought he was one of the best players at his position, 7th out of 215, but he only played 7 games. That has to mitigate things a little bit. Even though I do think this is probably beyond anything Jarran Reed has done over the last couple years or at any point in his career, it does mitigate it a little bit. So I don't think we're there yet when we're looking at a guy like Daquan Jones, but we're a little bit closer than you might like if you're trying to bring this guy back. Remember, Daquan Jones, I'm sorry, excuse me, not Daquan Jones. Jarran Reed is probably going to get a little bit of a increase in his pay. He signed 2 years, $9 million, and he overperformed that deal. He's probably going to try to get at least a little bit more from his next deal because, hey, look at me. I played better than people thought I would. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep trying to find guys who are older. You have Jarran Reed's current, or, a contract that's about to expire would be like the next guy to look at, honestly. We're not going to do that, but tied with him at 2 years, $9 million, so the exact same contract, Shelby Harris, who got 2 years, $9 million last offseason from the Browns at 32 years old. So Shelby Harris. We're a little bit familiar with this guy. He played a year here, but after the year he played here, he went to Cleveland and was a part-time player for them, played fairly well for them, but look at the numbers. The numbers are not really comparable with anything that Reed put up, like 2 sacks, a sack and a half, good tackle numbers, but not anything beyond what Jarran Reed was giving you these last couple years, right? Now you go to Pro Football Focus, they like him a little bit more than they like Reed. They gave him some really good marks in 2022 when he was with the Seahawks, and they also gave him good marks in his first year in Cleveland. So maybe we're not quite there, but I feel like we're there. Yeah, I think that we're basically there. Remember, the cap has gone up. Remember that these guys are going to expect to get paid a little bit more. I think we're basically at the point where we can start saying, well, there's some equivalency we can draw, right? Shelby Harris, maybe his PFF grades are a little better. Maybe he's a better all-around player, but the numbers, they don't compare. He had 3.5 sacks over a 2-year period before getting that contract. Jarran Reed has 11.5 over the same period of time. And if you want to keep going beyond Shelby Harris, well, first of all, you're running into some of these rookie contracts like Jordan Davis. But the next guy you could maybe look at would be Michael Pierce, who got 2 years, $7.5 million. And I'm going to go and put the kibosh on this right now. He got this in the 2023 offseason. And if you scroll down on Michael Pierce's page, the years that led up to that, he played 3 games, and then he got hurt, 8 games, and then he got hurt, and then he played 0 games because he opted out during the COVID season. So based on 11 games over a 3-year period, he got 2 years, $7.5 million. So there's no way Jarran Reed is going to be getting less than that or even equal to that 2 years later when he's actually been playing and playing at a pretty good level these last few years. So my gut is that's definitely too far. And I think this Shelby Harris contract from last offseason is probably, which is also the exact same contract that Reed got 2 years ago, that's probably the bottom barrier. So I think we're seeing a little bit of a pay increase for Jarran Reed this offseason. I don't think it'll be big because there isn't a big market for 32-year-old defensive tackles. But I think you're looking at something like 2 years, $10 million. Maybe 1 year, $5 million. But it seems like these guys usually get multi-year deals. So I'm going to say 2 years, $10 million. That's $5 million per. And that's going to be maybe the final notable contract of his NFL career. But I think that's going to be what he can get unless the market just decides they really don't like him. And they don't like him for reasons that have very little to do with his recent play and the track record of players at this position, because we've learned that defensive tackles age decently well. So would I give him 2 years, $10 million? I think he's worth it, but I don't think I'm doing it because we need to give all the 3 tech snaps we have to Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy. And Reed is somebody that we seem like we see as a 3 tech. And hey, he did great work in that position. I'm not taking anything away from him. Awesome stuff, but I need to move on. and it seems like McDonald wants a bigger nose tackle than Jarran Reed. All right, let me know what you guys think. See you guys later. Go Hawks.